Thank you guys for coming out. This makes me feel really special. I always wonder, does anybody ever listen to the podcast? And I'm like, even if you don't, like nobody's listening. You're just here because there's chairs. I get it. It's okay. It's all right. But yeah, it's a win-win for everyone, and you get free bourbon, right? So what more could you want out of life? Awesome. Well, good afternoon, everybody. Thank you guys for coming out. This makes me feel really special. I always wonder, does anybody ever listen to the podcast? And I'm like, even if you don't, like nobody's listening. You're just here because there's chairs. I get it. It's okay. It's all right. But yeah, it's a win-win for everyone, and you get free bourbon, right? So what more could you want out of life? Well, I appreciate you guys being here, and I was really honored that Kenny reached out to me and asked me to do this. This is something. He asked me to come up with a topic, and I thought, what could be better than just simply talking about why I do what I do? And this is a perfect opportunity for me to do that. For those of you that don't know, I'm a native Kentuckian. I was born and raised in Eastern Kentucky. Then moved to Lexington, went to school at UK. I'm actually an attorney, so I do still practice law, believe it or not. So I am a full-time attorney. I have my MBA as well. I'm a 3-time graduate from the University of Kentucky. So I've stayed in Lexington forever, and I love it there. It's home, and I love Kentucky. So a couple years ago, the way this all started for me, really, as an attorney, I don't know if any of you all are attorneys or not, but if you're in a professional career, then you probably know that it can be boring. There's not much creativity in being an attorney. And for me, I'm a very creative person. I've played music most of my life and done other things. So I really lost that in terms of my job, my occupation, what I was doing. So my wonderful wife, who happens to be back in the back there, hanging out there. I'm happy you're not just the only one here, because I really thought it might just be her. But I have people in the seats. I know. This is great. She encouraged me. She said, look, you love bourbon. You love photography. My dad was an amateur photographer for years, still is. And I kind of grew up around that. So I developed a love for photography, love for bourbon. And I'm a native Kentuckian, like I said. So I have a passion for my state. I love Kentucky. And growing up as a kid in Eastern Kentucky, there wasn't a great sense of pride in a lot of things. Being from Eastern Kentucky, a lot of people kind of look down on that, like you're a hillbilly or a redneck, and you don't know what you're doing. But there was a sense of pride in certain things, like UK basketball. If you're not a UK fan, I get it. But for me as a kid, UK basketball was a great sense of pride. And as I got older, bourbon kind of took that space for me as well. So I grew up, as I got older, I realized how important bourbon actually is to our state. So as a native Kentuckian and as a fan of Kentucky, this love of bourbon just continued to grow. And it was really funny. Back in 2018, my brother, who lives in Columbus, said, hey, can you get my friend a bottle of Blanton's? And I'm like, oh, sure, no problem. Well, then I go to the liquor store and I'm like, where's all the Blanton's? I mean, why can't I find Blanton's? So I kept looking, and the more I looked and started seeing what was going on in the industry, I really felt like I started going down this rabbit hole. I didn't realize how much bourbon had expanded, how much it had grown, and everything that was going on in the industry. So I started becoming even more of a fan, going down that rabbit hole. I started the Instagram site. My wife encouraged me to do that. So I shared mostly just pictures. That was really, back when Instagram was really just pictures, and you could have an Instagram account with just pictures. Now it's all videos and shorts. But, for me, it was just a lot of fun, and I loved doing it. And it was that creative outlet for me to get away from my day job of being an attorney, have some fun with things that I love, the state of Kentucky, bourbon, and photography. And then after about a year and a half, I met my buddy, co-host Matt, who's back there. Thanks for showing up, Matt. I appreciate you being there. So my co-host Matt's here, and so I met him believe it or not, at a bourbon raffle. We didn't win anything. We lost. Right. So we just started meeting each other randomly, hanging out, having a few drinks. And I kept telling him, hey man, we should start a podcast. And he's like, nope, I don't want to do it. I have no desire to be a podcaster. So it took a couple of months, but Matt, if you've listened to the show, Matt has an incredible palate, very gifted in that respect. He's worked in the restaurant industry, worked at a bakery. He's got this uncanny ability almost to pick out notes. So we decided to start a podcast together. I had no idea what I was doing. At the time, I was 52 years old. I know I don't look that old, but I was 52, really didn't know what I was doing. So I just started researching a lot, YouTube and everything, Google searching, and figured out how to do a podcast. So we started that podcast back in February 2020, and now we're the number 2 podcast in the world right now, bourbon podcast in the world, right behind, I won't say who the number 1 is, but you guys can probably look around and figure out who the number 1 bourbon podcast is. But it's been a great experience for me, and it's a way, again, just for me to share that passion that I have with bourbon, the passion I had for photography, and the passion I have for my home state of Kentucky. And it's afforded me this opportunity to come and do things like this, which is something I never would have imagined that I would have the opportunity to do. And I get the opportunity to meet just amazing people. And a lot of you all have had the opportunity to meet some great people in this industry, I'm sure. And for us, you know, we never take it for granted. The opportunity that we have to sit down and get to meet and talk with great people, these master distillers, these people who work every day to bring us all these wonderful products. And that's what we get to do, man. So we get to hang out. Sorry, I just saw Owen Martin from Angels walk by back there. But we have great guests like Owen. You know, Owen's the new master distiller, Angels Envy, and we just had him on our podcast as well. So it's a great opportunity. Guys like Dan Calloway over here from Bardstown Bourbon Company. So it grew from just this passion that I had for bourbon and for the state of Kentucky into this podcast that has grown beyond anything that I ever imagined it would be. If you told me 5 years ago that what I'm doing in terms of taking pictures and just having fun and showing my pictures of bottles of bourbon, that it would grow into this opportunity to create this podcast. Now we're moving into the YouTube space. We're a couple years late, but we're working on that now. So it's an opportunity again for me to continue to be creative and to express that love that I have of bourbon and love for my state. And it's really become a way of life. And it's kind of funny because I still practice law. I am an attorney. I work full time. Fortunately, I get to work from home, so I don't have to go into an office every day. So that really opens up a lot of opportunities for me to pursue these things, to pursue the bourbon life. But this passion that I had for bourbon and these other things, really, it has become a way of life for me now. And it has become a full-time job. So not only do I work full-time as an attorney, but I'm also a full-time podcaster, now becoming full-time YouTuber. I'm not a bourbon celebrity. It's funny when people recognize me or they come up, especially at events like this, and people say, hey, aren't you the Bourbon Life guy? It's very humbling to me because it was something I would never, again, would have anticipated, that just doing something that I'm extremely passionate about would create opportunities like this, and the opportunity to meet so many wonderful people and to get to share my passion with bourbon, all around the globe. And that's funny because I think we've been downloaded now in over 42 countries, which to me is just absolutely mind-blowing that there's enough interest in what Matt and I do on a weekly basis. I just never would have thought that people would have cared enough to really want to experience that with us. And we've been really blessed with that. And I just consider myself extremely fortunate. People ask me all the time, is this something you want to do full time? If I could do it full time, I think there's a double-edged sword to that. I think it would be great, but then also I think if it became my job and my way of life, then it may lose that thrill of being that side hustle or that side gig or that side thing or that passion project. Because to me, even though it's become almost a full-time job, it really still feels like it's my hobby or it's a passion. And I try to do it as professionally as possible and try to do things as best as I can. So I'm very serious about it. But I don't know that this is something that'll ever become a full-time job for me. But if it does, it'd be great. I've been an attorney. This is my 30th year of being an attorney. I know I don't look that old, I know, but 30 years doing it. And I'm at that point where it would be nice maybe to kind of slide out of that and just slide into this full-time. But we'll see. But that's it. That's really all I wanted to share with you guys. I know it's kind of it's a lightning talk. But I just wanted to share with you guys about my passion and, how I got where I am today. So does anybody have any questions about anything or about the Bourbon Life or about what we do? Here.
Do these guys let you participate in their roundtables?
You know what? I have never participated in their roundtables, but I have been on their podcast. So they were kind enough. And that's a great thing. And I probably should have started with that. Matt and I get to do this every week, and we love what we do. We're fortunate to get to do it. But we get to do this because Kenny and Ryan were there first. They started in 2015, and they really set the groundwork for all of us, all the podcasters, because you can get on iTunes and if you go into the podcast and search bourbon, you're going to pull up 50, 60, 70 different bourbon podcasts now, which when we started, there was only maybe 5 or 10 of us. But none of us would be able to do what we do without Kenny and Ryan. But yes, they've had me on the show, and asking me to do something like this, it was truly an honor, very humbling to get the opportunity to do that. Anybody else? Any other questions or anything? All right, that was my lightning talk.